Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Bucs UK podcast, episode 61 for us today. I'm your host. My name is Alex, and I've got Marianna, Phil, and now the most well-behaved Scotsman at Bucs UK because his daughter's now part of the club, and that is, of course, Graeme. So, hello, guys. How are you?
Hi.
Hi.
It's great to see you all. Welcome. Thank you for joining me today. What a game we've got to dissect from the weekend. Let's just have your initial thoughts of the game, if we can, please, guys. Before we go forward, Graeme, how was it for you?
I think that 60 minutes kind of summed up the whole season, didn't it? Just such a disappointment. We've been unable really to put together 4 quarters of good solid football all season, and that was, again, it was 1 quarter of really good football, but what preceded it was pretty shambolic at times, to be honest with you. I mean, the commentators on the TV themselves said it was like junior high school stuff, some of the defensive frailties that came through. And the second thing which has haunted us all season has been injuries, and that's not an excuse, that's a fact. And it's been a bit kind of bizarre with the injuries. It's not been spread across the team. It's been the entire defensive backfield, and then it's been the entire receiver core, and it's just knocked us all out of kilter. So it's been, I think that game just summed everything up for me. That really was the season in a nutshell.
Marianna, it's the hope that gets you worse, isn't it?
Yeah. I think if we'd finished that game at 27-3, we would have all been pretty depressed. But and then to come back and to be drawing and then to lose it on that last kick of the game, I think was actually probably worse. That kind of end the season on that very last kick, and it wasn't even like we had time to, I think, really digest it fully, but the game was just done with that last kick. That was our season over, with just basically 2 plays at the end of the game, and it was a painful way to end the season, but I have to sort of at the same time feel like it was a good season for us to get back to the playoffs and get as far as we got. So I'm trying not to be too down about it.
Phil, you were able to watch the game live, if I remember correctly, so you had to sort of catch up with it at another point. Obviously, rest of us knew the result by the point that you were watching it, but it's still hurt as much, I'm sure.
Yeah, just a bit. I made every effort not to find the score out, so when I was watching it, it was like I was watching it live, but not live, if you know what I mean. But we've been saying all season we need to play for 4 quarters, not 3, not 2, but 4. And we also need to, all the teams need to sort of try and turn up on us on match day. But for some reason, and I watched the highlights again tonight, and just to make sure to see if my notes I'm taking were right. But it just seemed to me like the secondary, who has been injured all season, and performed miracles with backups coming in, Delaney and players like that, and they've been brilliant. But they just looked like they didn't know, they never met each other. It just looked like somebody put a game plan in and they didn't know what they were doing. And let's be quite honest, it was a secondary with not marking Cooper Kupp properly that was our undoing, really.
Well, I'll tell you what, as you've mentioned the defense, Phil, we'll start with that this week. It takes us in really quite nicely to it. Marianna, it was Matthew Stafford made it. I mean, not just Matthew Stafford, but actually, completely one side of the ball there. Matthew Stafford and his offensive line were, I thought they were outstanding. The amount of time he had in the pocket.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We were saying this. Our pass rush was pretty much ineffective. He was having all the time in the world to stand in there and throw. Very disappointing considering what our pass rush normally can achieve. And we were still relatively effective against the run. Cam Akers has had some superb games. He came back off of that injury, and everyone was raving about his performance in the previous game, and against us, he wasn't. He only got about 50 odd yards, so he wasn't much. So our run D was still there, I think, but I think it was all pass rush and secondary where we were failing. And yeah, pass rush just seemed to not be there. Didn't seem to turn up. I don't know if it was our pass rush or if it was just that their O-line just had the measure of us.
Well, let me give you some numbers here, which are absolutely baffling. For those of you who might not be aware, Greg Ullman on Twitter, every week he will tweet out the the snaps that each player plays during the game. And there are 2 players and 2 numbers that really stand out on this. Will Golston only played 29% of snaps, and Vita Vea only played 47% of snaps. I mean, Graeme, what initial thoughts on hearing that?
Yeah, it's a bit bizarre. I think probably they were expecting a lot of pass plays. Maybe that's what took Vea out, but you would expect Golston to be in more on the pass plays. Yeah, but it seems a bit strange. I think, defensively, as Marianna said, we did stop the run pretty well. Not only stuffing the run, but forcing some fumbles as well. So they actually did, I think, 3 fumbles in the end up that we recovered. Could be wrong. So I mean, they pretty much did their job. We can't complain about that. Yeah, just it's bizarre to think. I believe we had 2 sacks and the Rams had 3, because the difference between the 2 defensive lines was absolutely night and day. They had us under pressure. It just shows it's not all about the statistics. They had us under pressure. Tom Brady was throwing the ball even when he wasn't under pressure because he was waiting for a big hand to come over his shoulder and knock the ball out. So their defensive line was and their defensive front was so far ahead of us. It was incredible. We just didn't quite get the pressure. I was watching that last pass to Cup near the end of the game. And I think it was Sue got within about a yard of getting there, but that again, that kind of sums everything up. Nearly made it, but not quite. The pass defense was poor, unfortunately.
And Phil, let's go back to Cooper Kupp. You mentioned him shortly. He was highlighted as a danger player in our previous episode. My goodness, did he turn up again?
He's one of the best receivers in the league, and I'm completely mystified about what we're talking about a defense here that in the last 3 weeks have just been fantastic. I mean, awesome. And then suddenly, for some reason, don't forget one of their best defensive line players, Whitworth, wasn't playing. So we never got to him. And the other thing that's mystified me was I read somebody saying that Stafford is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL at avoiding the blitz. So what do we do on the last play? We blitzed him. And the secondary, I think I'm gonna have to watch it again. It just looked like they put a game plan in and they didn't know what they were doing. And you can go on all day about what went wrong, but something somewhere with that defense wasn't right. We put a game plan in that just didn't work. And it's as simple as that. So, I don't really blame any of the players, but I'm afraid, Todd, you're going to have to take a bit of blame for this one. Something was definitely wrong, because that's a top-notch defense we've got, top-notch.
But second half, we can say that they did turn up. Second half, completely, different swing. What's the word? The momentum, that's the word I'm after, completely shifted after half time.
But they did. Well, I think, towards the end of the third quarter and the fourth quarter, it did. But the Rams were trying very hard to lose it, weren't they, at this point? With that snap, and then we got the Akers fumble. Let's not forget that, we had it gifted to us to some degree, but I just feel that there's something that defense was, because we were all saying all the defensive players are fit, they're all back, they got, but they just didn't seem to just be on the same page as each other, some of them. And was completely confused by it. And when you're saying about their defense, well, it just goes to show you how good Tristan Wirfs really is. He's probably one of the top offensive line players in the NFL, if not the top. You know, Donovan Smith just didn't know what to do with Von Miller. Just didn't know what to do with him. And I've often thought this season that the tight ends have been helping the offensive line. And I think they've been helping Donovan Smith, while I think they were on the other side helping Tristan Wirfs, because Donovan Smith just didn't look with us at all. And you know,
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's move over to the offense now. In that case, you know, again, really struggled on the offense, particularly in first half there. Graeme, when we think about the players that weren't active on Sunday, so of course Chris Godwin was out. We were missing Grayson Jr. As well, and Perriman. What was those two added to the list on the offense? Was that, and of course, sorry, Tristan Wirfs, of course, sorry. Adding those three on top of Goldwing, just too much to overcome?
I think so. I mean, to be fair to the guys that are there, Tyler Johnson and Scotty Miller, and I think we could have been using Scotty Miller more, to be honest with you, but you're down to your number 5 and 6 wide receivers in a big playoff game. You definitely, you miss Chris Godwin so much. You realise it when he's not there, because a nice 6-7 yard completion over the middle on third down just wasn't there. Tyler Johnson dropped one. Gronk, I think, dropped, didn't get to a couple. Even Gronk, but so I think those injuries, Tristan Wirfs, again, as Phil said, you just realise how good he is when he's not there, and you're playing against such a good. I mean, that defense, the Rams' defensive front is front 7 or whatever, absolutely probably the best I've seen for many years. Really top notch. So yeah, you drop a few players, you drop as many players as we did to injury. It's a real struggle, and that's what it proved. There were just so many miscues early in the game. Even Tom Brady wasn't hitting the numbers. He was, thrown behind, thrown in front. We were 3 for 14 on third down. And obviously most of that in the first half. But unfortunately, it all blew up in our face this week.
Marianne, let's talk about one of your favourite players, of course. I think you know exactly what I'm referring to here. He definitely showed spark, didn't he, Leonard Fournette?
Playoff Lenny turned up again for the playoffs. Yeah. What was it? Another sort of 100 yards from scrimmage. He was 50 odd yards on the ground off minimal carries. I think he only got something like 12 or 13 carries. He didn't have a lot. And he still had, 50 odd yards plus on the ground, 50 odd, 60 yards, something like that. So yeah, I felt like we probably should have used him more. We didn't really use the run game. If you look at the stats, heavily skewed to Brady through something like 58 times or something versus Lenny running 13. So I think the balance was definitely off there, especially as it seemed to be effective. And I know, Lenny will take some. He'll sort of catch short ones out the backfield. So it's not, totally, it's kind of a run game. But I do think we once again we went away maybe from the run game a bit too quickly. When it did seem to be effective, and Lenny was sort of getting out there and getting sort of 10-yard runs and really breaking through. So I again, is that one that we kind of put on the coaching and say, what why did we go away from something that looked to be effective?
Yeah, got to agree there, Marianna. I made a note that we got about 51 yards rushing, and 22 of it was in the first 2 plays. That's bizarre.
I mean, and there you go. And again, the play calling was mentioned there. There was some second and threes where we were trying to throw 30, 40 yards down the field. Sometimes you just want to see a short play just to get those new set of downs. Phil, you've already mentioned Von Miller and Aaron Donald, and praise where it's due. Those two were. I've never seen our offensive line so overwhelmed this season. They were brilliant and made life very difficult for Tom Brady and the O-line.
They did, but I'm going to, I'm just, risk of repeating myself. It just goes to show you how good Tristan Wirfs is. We have the biggest piece of the jigsaw missing, and the players they slotted in weren't up to it. I mean, what did I read in the paper? I hope Josh Wells knows what Aaron Donald's looking like, because you'll be watching him all afternoon. And we just weren't up to it at all. We could, I would have liked to say that if we'd have got Tristan Wirfs in there, I think we might have won that game, because I just looked at Donovan Smith and I just thought, oh dear, and it was just very, very frustrating. And someone, we go back to the running game, and I know there's one or two people come on here. So what do? We get the ball and go straight up the gut all the time. We go to the outside and they cause them problems. And I don't know, we seem to have a game plan sometimes, and if it doesn't work, we just don't change it. And I just couldn't understand what we were doing. And we have got, but I will say that, when you lose players of the caliber of Godwin and the worst, it's going to be a struggle. We've managed to do all sorts this year. I don't forget we had the Antonio Brown debacle. That isn't exactly well. You had him on the field, that would have been a big help. And so really, perhaps one game too far. But very proud of our team all the same.
What do you think? Because obviously Ryan Jensen picked up an injury in the previous game. Obviously he played, might not have been 100%. That could have had an impact as well.
Yeah, that could have been. But I think he just ignores all pain. I just think he just carries on, and I just think he's one of the best players on our team. I love him to death. I do hope he stays as well. Watching this, Ryan, can he stay?
Yes.
But yeah, I just think it's very frustrating. All right, it's like Graeme said earlier on. When you lose Godwin, we lose Antonio Brown, and then so the backup screen, Grayson does well, lose him as well. Perryman does all right, lose him as well. Yeah. We just lost the injury. Everything just caught up with us on, and I don't know if anyone noticed anything. Something I noticed when I watched it again. I noticed a number of times that Brady puts his hands on his head to listen to the calls, and he goes, "No." I thought, whoa, hang on a minute. So I don't know. Very frustrating. Very, very frustrating.
I don't think we've seen Tom Brady, that hurried all season. It was certainly very uncomfortable to watch from a Buccaneer perspective. Marianna, Mike Evans, though, he also got involved. Touchdowns as well. But he was always going to have a hard night, wasn't he? Number one receiver. We're down to sort of fifth and sixth string receivers as well. It was always going to be a tough night there for Mike.
Yeah, I think as you say, the team doesn't run on just the one wide receiver. I mean, look at the Rams. You've got Cup, but you've got now you've got like someone like Odell Beckham that's taking the pressure. So that you've got to watch both. And when we've got Evans and AB, or we had Evans and we've got Godwin, or we've got Evans and someone else, then you've got a chance. But when we've got Evans, then you sort of who's your other option? Who's that number two? And realistically, the sort of wide receivers that were left were not true number twos. They were, we've got some youngsters, and Tyler Johnson's looking good, and Scotty Miller's looking good. But are they really? Can you put them in the same league as Godwin? I don't think so. I think they're solid, and they'll always be those sort of depth rotational receivers that will play on certain things. But they're not going to be that true number two wide out that you have when you see, as I say, when you compare something like a Cooper Kupp and Odell Beckham, or so Evans does what he can, and he's a safe pair of hands. But I mean, as you say, there were even miscues from Evans and miscues from someone like Gronk, who in this game, we needed him to be a safe pair of hands as well, and he dropped some uncharacteristically for him. He dropped some, and I guess there was just miscues everywhere on that sort of level, and drops that I'm not used to seeing. And as you say, in the second half, whatever was said at halftime, I think did make a change. It did sort of get through to them, but at the end of the day, the offense, I think, did everything they could because they got us back into that sort of level position. So I think probably the defense probably holds a bit more to blame than the offense at the end of the day. They got us back to an even position, so we can't put too much blame on them.
Yeah, I've got to say, I agree with that. I think, remember thinking when we tied the game up, there's no way we lose this now. We've played so badly for most of the game, and it's tied. We will win this in overtime, and then off they went, and that was it. I did see a great statistic this week versus the Rams in the last 2 seasons. We're 1-7 versus the rest of the league. We're 28-3. Saints and Rams 1-7. What's going on?
Aye.
Someone tell me.
the $1 million question.
What do they know that
Graeme?
we don't? What do they know that we don't, or that Bruce Arians doesn't?
So one last part of the team we do have to talk about, even though we probably don't want to talk about them, is of course special teams. Graeme, I think I've got to come to you after seeing your reaction to that intro there. Any comment on the special teams?
No, if Kieran was here, then if Kieran was here, he would explode. It would be an F, and it's an F from me. I think every single aspect. There are no positives from special teams this week. The kicking, well, I mean, to be fair, it was a long field goal attempt, but we missed a field goal which would have won the game. The kickoffs out of bounds, not once but twice. The kick coverage, we gave them a long return, and Darden returning himself. He's been anemic at best all season, and we're starting from scratch again. To be honest with you, you could start from scratch with the entire list of specialists there. Suckup's probably got himself an extra year because of the bulk of this season and certainly last season, so he's probably going to stay. I thought you could be looking for an entirely new remainder of special teams, but it was a horror show, absolute horror show.
I mean, and you mentioned the kickoffs as well. I mean, that is just. I mean, how basic do we need to go back here? Giving field position on the 40-yard line, kicking a kick out of bounds, not once, twice. Talk about shooting yourselves in the foot. What is it we say? Who beats the Bucs?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't get that. I really don't understand what happened there. I've not seen any explanation of that. I'd like to see Pinion's own thoughts on that and what happened, because I mean that's like a shank on a golf course, virtually, to hit it that far wide, or a duck hook going the other way, to hit it that far wide that it goes out, and to have done it once and then do it again. Wow.
Well, I think we'll close special teams there before we say anything else on that one. So you've heard our views from the game. It's now time to see the views of some of our members as well. So let's start with John. What a gutting finish. Amazing to come back, but oh my God, that shocking play in the first half just killed us. David, it's the hope that kills you. Daniel, can someone check me for a pulse? Did anyone else lose their pulses during that game? Chris, gutted, but so proud of how the team played out the second half. They did all over the flop. They kept fighting to the end and almost got there. Proud to be a Bucs fan. And finally, Alex, he says, that hurts even more than being blown out. To do all that work to get back level, and with 45 seconds left, that the best receiver in the league get behind us twice is unforgivable. So that brings a close to our review of that game on Sunday. But we are going to end with something positive in this part of the show, because, of course, Bucs fans from the UK are allowed back into America. And our members have been going to some of the games recently. And two of our members, Ian and Sam Costain, were at the game on Sunday. And they were interviewed by Darren from WESH Orlando. And we'd like to show it to you now. Check it out.
Journey for some is a whole lot longer than just a drive to Raymond James Stadium. For some, it is a more than 4,000-mile trek across the ocean. Yeah, there are more than 500 fans as members of the Bucs UK fan club. The crew over there, pretty strong too. And for at least 2 in the house today, the journey is worth every single step along the way.
It's about football, fathers and sons.
Yeah, well, it started for me more than 30 years ago, actually. In 1989, I was on vacation in Florida with my dad. There was a big sporting event on, and we didn't really know much about the NFL, but we thought we'd go along there. 11 touchdowns later, the Buccaneers had won 42-35. And I became hooked.
More than 150 NFL games later, Ian Costain has made regular trips from the UK to Tampa Bay. And now his son Sam is part of his insatiable NFL fandom.
I'm really looking forward to, the buzz of the playoffs at the Raymond James. Just the whole experience of it, really.
Back home, these two are part of a crew of UK Bucs fans, the club flourishing with more than 500 members. And sure, it's great now, but in the lean years?
We call it group therapy.
It's not always easy being an English Buccaneer.
I'll tell you what the most difficult part is, and that's the time difference. Now we've got a lot of games in prime time, of course. So for us, they start 1:15, 20 in the morning. So we don't get to bed till about 5 a.m.
The dedication decidedly there, but Sunday physically being here, well, there's nothing like it, no matter how long the journey. So Ian and Sam will be in the stands Sunday for Sam's first Bucs playoff game at Raymond James Stadium.
Obviously, get to spend time together on these trips away on vacation. Because I'm at university at the moment, so I'm away from home most of the time. And then, we can get together, go on these trips away, and hopefully see the Bucs win. That's the plan anyway.
A great interview there from Ian and Sam with Darren. A big thank you to Darren for asking us to help out there. It was a real pleasure that we could be involved, so thank you. So that is the Buccaneers season to a close. I'd like to, for this next part of the show, guys, just chat about how we thought the Buccaneers season went in general. If there's any players that stood out, any particular games that you really enjoyed. So Marianna, I'll come to you first. We got to the playoffs. It's still a successful season. No, we haven't got that Lombardi Trophy going back to Tampa, but it's still a great season.
I mean, obviously, going to my sort of history of supporting the Bucs since 2008 or so. Yeah, it was a great season. I haven't seen many winning seasons, so it was still a great season. We got to the playoffs again, so that was great. It's the best regular season I've seen. There were some great games. There really were. We had some good wins. Obviously for me, we beat the Giants, so.
A little personal connection there, of course, with you on that one, Marianna. Graeme, of course, JTS, great draft pick. He came in and did well. Any other players that you thought did particularly well also?
I think if you just don't need to look much further than Tom Brady himself, a lot of really good performances. I think offensive line's been fantastic, but for Brady at 44 years old to nearly as old as me to have, I think that is his second best ever season in terms of passing yardage and touchdowns, and that's just absolutely phenomenal, and I really hope he does come back for another year. I'm pretty sure he's got another really good year in him. But yeah, as a long-time follower of Tampa Bay, every year I keep banging on about how we need a good offensive line, and if we start with a good offensive line, you've got a chance. And we finally do, bar on Sunday there. They've been the absolute, the strongest part of the team all season long for me, and I've really enjoyed watching them. It's not, I'm probably not the normal type of person, football fan, to say that, but I do enjoy watching the performance of these guys. I think they're absolute top notch, and hopefully we can go from strength to strength, keep most of them together, and go from strength to strength next year.
Almost the unsung heroes, really, aren't they? Your offensive line. You don't talk about them. It means they've done done their job.
Yeah,
And
well,
of
the
course,
only stat you get on an offensive lineman is how many sacks he's given up. You know, they
Yeah.
don't tend to have tend to have positive statistics. So yeah, that's right.
and of course, three Pro Bowlers as well. That says all you need to know, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great honour. That's right. Only right that these guys should be there. Probably all five should have been there, to be honest with you. But can't complain. That's due recognition for a tremendous season.
I think there should be a lot more Buccaneers in that Pro Bowl team, but that's another discussion that we could go into, which I don't think we need to there. Phil, any particular highlights for you from the season?
Yeah, well, all the wins. I think you've got to say my favourite one was the Colts. Two reasons was it was going into the game has been a really tough game, and the second reason is we were all at Leeds getting blind drunk watching it. It was the second of our watch parties, and what a fantastic success that was. It was just an absolutely fantastic night. Yeah.
I mean, that's certainly something, just briefly from a Bucs UK perspective, as I won't go into too much detail because, Phil, I know you're going to share some information later, but that is certainly a positive from this season. That obviously COVID, it's still with us, but the fact we're now at a stage where we were able to do some watch parties and meet up as a group. It was great to watch games with other Bucs fans again.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. We've been talking about watch parties now for about 3 years. It was great. We got them off the ground. And big thank you to Dave who hunted the venues down for us. And they both, we didn't know what to expect, and they were both huge successes, judging by the number of emails we get from the people who own the function room who want us to come back. I don't know how much money we spent, but obviously keep asking us to come back. But yeah, from that, it was great to get together again. It really, really was. It was fantastic. The Colts game was just amazing, absolutely amazing.
It looked absolutely brilliant fun. Now, just something else again regarding last season. A franchise record for the Bucs in terms of wins in a season. I know we got an extra game, but still, a great record to see there. We had Tom Brady breaking records. Mike Evans set his 8th consecutive season of 1,000 yards or more receiving. I mean, Marianna, just amazing to see these records broken. What a team!
I mean, absolutely. I think definitely the Mike Evans, record for me was a highlight. I think because, I think we all think he's a bit criminally underrated in terms of, a lot of other wide receivers get a lot more sort of press than him, and he's just quietly there breaking records. So another great season for him. As you say, it's just been, as much as Sunday was heartbreaking, I feel like we've got the building blocks still of a great team. And I still feel like we go into the offseason, into next season, looking positive again still. I can't be upset with how the team, how the team played during the season. I can't. I think we all say it. We're all proud to be Bucs fans, and yeah, heartbreaking to lose in the playoffs, but there's a lot of teams that didn't even get to the playoffs, so you've got to be proud of everything that they achieved this season.
We're just going to take a quick pause on the show briefly now, because I just want to quickly say a big thanks to Bucs Report, as always, for helping us to promote our podcast. They are fantastic people to work with. If you want to check them out, their links are in the description below. And also want to say a huge thank you to all you guys, our viewers and listeners. Thank you ever so much. We don't say it enough. Well, actually, no, I don't say it enough. Kieran does say it a lot to you guys. I don't. So I want to make sure I extend my own thanks to you guys. Your support is really, really appreciated. So if you haven't done it yet, though, please go and hit that thumbs up below. Make sure you're subscribed. Turn on the bell so you're notified every time we upload. We've got many more podcasts coming. So you really want to make sure you are tuned in and ready for those. So, guys, let's just finish the show now with chatting briefly about the off-season. Graeme, any sort of hopes in particular for this off season?
It's going to be an interesting one. I think Jason Light and his team are going to have their work cut out, to be honest with you. I just dug up the list of unrestricted free agents there and had a look at it, and there are some big names on there. There's some guys like Carlton Davis and and Kappa, Whitehead, who don't earn an awful lot of money, who suddenly, are going to be holding the hand out and asking them to cross the palm with silver. So there's a lot of dealing to be done. I think even if we do lose a few, I think we've got a very solid base to work from. And I think if we get, kind of the right guys back next year, like I think Marianna said, I think we can still have a team that can challenge next year. A lot will hinge on number 12. If Tom comes back next year, I think we've got an opportunity to challenge, get to the playoffs again. But a lot of work to be done in the close season. Jason and his team going to be very busy.
And we've seen Jason Light pull off miracles. Maybe he can do it again. He's done a superb job. Marianna, anything you're particularly hoping to see this offseason?
Well, I'm looking forward to the draft as always. I'm already looking ahead to that. I'm a bit of a fan of the college anyway, so I kind of keep an eye on the college during the sort of the season. When we get to this off season, I do start like digging into it. I'll be watching the combine, and I'm actually going to be in Tampa for the draft, so it should be good to actually see the draft. While I'm in the States, which is one of the first times I've been, I think, in the US at that time. So that'll be good. It'll be good to see who we pick up. As Graeme has said, we've got, I think, really, we've got big names, but I suspect some of the big names will keep. I feel like Godwin probably won't go anywhere. I'm hopeful, like Phil said, that Jensen stays with us. I think Carlton Davis stays with us. I think where we're probably going to lose will be the sort of depth players, the sort of rotational ones who now, a number of them have got a Super Bowl ring and sort of can point to the fact that they were in a Super Bowl winning team and can maybe go elsewhere to ply their trade. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of people willing to pick up those sorts of players. So, as that is the sort of the Jordan Whiteheads. That is Golston, I think, is free. McClendon's a free agent. So I could see players like that maybe going and plying their trade elsewhere and getting maybe a couple of years on a sort of bigger contract.
Well, what about Lenny Fournette, Marianna?
Shush, Lenny is not leaving. We cannot let Lenny go. Don't say this to me.
Get rid of Rojo. Get rid of Ronald Jones. Just keep Lenny and get rid of Rojo.
Rojo is up as free agent. I would happily keep Leonard Fournette and personally, based on performances this year, I would actually say, Ronald Jones. I wouldn't be averse to actually letting him go and seeing who we could pick up in the draft, maybe in like the sort of third round, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I think the emergence of Keyshawn Vaughn this year has been good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Picks up where Ronald Jones, if Rojo goes. But Lenny, I think, has come on as a catching, as a receiving fullback as well, running back. He's so good. The hands have become very safe in the last 3 quarters of the season or so. So I'd really like to keep him.
I think Rojo going is probably a possibility. So that would be one player to keep an eye on during the off season. But also there have been very light rumours that Sue and JPP could be calling it a day as well. Obviously, nothing confirmed there. So there'll be 2 huge losses from the defence if they do decide to hang up their cleats. So that's 2 more players we'll have to keep an eye on there. Phil, what about you and your hopes and expectations for this off season?
Well, I think it starts with like Graeme said, it starts with Jason Light, and if Jason Light gets his act together quite quickly, I think he's got the hardest job of anybody. And if number 12, Mr. Brady, can see that there is going to be hope for next year, I think he'll come back. If he sees we've lost too many, I can see him just retiring, quite honest, because we do need to keep Godwin. We do need to keep Fournette. That, to me, they're the first 2 players on his list. He's got, but don't forget, he reworked a lot of contracts to sign get the band back together. So I don't know what effect that's going to have, but he needs to. He's the most important person in one book place, starting from now.
I think he worked his magic to keep that window open for us for this year. But you're right. How much dead cap are we carrying next year? That's the problem.
Do you know? Go on.
No, sorry, go on, Phil.
Do you know, I was been thinking about the whole situation and about it today, and I know we're all a bit flat at this moment in time, but I just want to take everybody back 2 years. What were we talking about 2 years ago? And I thought what we were talking about, we was 12 years since we've been in the playoffs. In those 12 years, we'd only had 3 winning seasons. And what were we all debating? Should we keep Jameis? Will he get us into the playoffs? That was in 2019. That's what we were all talking about.
Yeah,
Anyway,
absolutely.
for fast forward 2 years, Jason Light brings in Tom Brady, and in my opinion, we've been exceedingly privileged to see the greatest player the NFL has produced, and that subject just isn't up for debate. Graced the hallowed turf at her AJ, and we've won a Super Bowl. And we've come within 2 plays of getting the NFC Championship. I think we've been exceptionally privileged in this last 2 years.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Phil.
Yeah.
I've got to say
100%.
that I have admitted on this programme once before that when they signed Tom Brady, I shook my head and thought, what on earth are we doing here?
You know what? I didn't do that. I said, what we've signed here is a winner. He knows how to win. And somebody once said about the Buccaneers, losing becomes a habit. I think that was in 2019 as well. Losing becomes a habit. And that's what we were. We were in a habit of losing. Somebody said they were going to write a book, 101 Ways to Lose a Game, by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And we were doing it as well. Yeah. And there we are, 2 years later, won a Super Bowl, and just 2 blown coverages away from the NFC Championship game. And let's be quite honest, I would have fancied us against the 49ers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's as you say, Phil. I just want to echo what you say there. We have been very lucky as Bucs fans to experience these last 2 years, which have been absolutely incredible. And if this is the end of that, little part where we enjoyed that success, and Tom Brady does decide to call it a day, the rebuild job begins, and I've just got to have faith and stick behind that team that we'll get there again. That's all we got to do. We've got to stick with this team. So let's just it is time to, of course, bring our show to a close for this occasion. But Phil, before we do, what a year it's been for Bucs UK.
I was just about to say then, was that in those 2 years since 2019, the Bucs UK has grown immensely. We've got the podcasts, we've got huge media interest. We've as we said earlier on, we've got the watch parties, which is only going to develop. We've got the merchandise, and also we've managed to crack the 500 membership. So we've sort of grown alongside them as they've gone. We've grown with them, and it's all a massive thanks to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have supported us well and beyond anything that we could have dreamed of. Brian Ford and his team have actually been absolutely immense in our growth, and getting the tickets and everything. Amy, who helped us out so much. It's been great. But I want to say to anybody from the Bucs UK who's watching this is your club. You tell us what you want, and we'll try and do it. We've been sorting out tonight when we're going to meet up, the 3 of us, to discuss it. We're going to have the AGM, and which will probably turn into another watch party. So you tell us what you want, and we'll try and do it. But thanks to everybody who's made this club a huge success. All the people who've been on the podcast, it's been absolutely fantastic. We had a great season. Thanks.
Members, you heard the man. You heard the boss. He said it better than any of us can put it. And if you are a Bucs fan living in the UK and you aren't a member yet, please come and join us. Go and visit our website, www.bucsuk.org. All the joining information is on there. We'd love to welcome you to this club. So that brings us to the end of this episode, our final episode of the 2021 season. Boy, it's been a great season to cover. Unfortunately, not quite the ending that we wanted. We, of course, will be back with more podcasts going forward. We're going to have a great off-season of podcasts, and then we look forward to covering the 2022 season as well. Marianna, Phil, Graeme, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And finally, to you guys, thank you once again for watching. Take care, and as always, go Bucs.
Go Bucs.
Go Bucs.